So today we're going to talk about love language. What are we going to cover? I'd like to introduce all of you this evening to the idea of love tank. Subsequently, I'll be sharing about the 5 love language. I hope that's what you have signed up for. That's the topic for tonight. And most importantly, other than knowing this 5 love language, we're going to talk a little bit about how can this possibly be applicable for you in your relationship. Alrighty? Okay, let's warm up a little bit. Help me to know who is in the room. Nothing threatening, I hope. Since we are talking about languages today, I would love to find out more about you and the languages you speak. Let's have a little poll here. We have 4 questions that I'm going to put up in a poll, and there is no right or wrong answer. So there's also no presents. Sorry, guys. So this is a time that I'm going to get you guys to share a little bit of your thoughts with me. Give me a sensing of what is your relationship with the languages that you use on a day-to-day basis already. I'm going to pull up the poll, and let's take a minute or 2 for us to check out where everyone is in terms of language competency.
2,000 years later.
Let's see. I'm going to end the poll here, and let me share the result with all of you to know who else is in the room with you, all right? Take a look at this, guys. How many languages can you speak? I think this is very typical, very representative of the population in Singapore. Many of us actually can manage more than 1 language, but you guys amazed me. Look at that. I have to confess that I can only do 2 languages. And you guys can actually, I have 35% of you in the room who can do 3. And this is crazy. 21% of you can actually manage more than 3. I mean, you guys are a talented bunch over here. And if we can take a look at the primary language, great. Good to know that actually 65% of you actually has English as your primary language, which means that we are in the right room. Most of you are able to understand English and is comfortable with that language. And I'm going to get to question 3. This is where this is amazing. All of you, there are a lot of you who can actually manage a 2nd language very fluently. And there's 1 person who can actually manage languages aside from the 4 national languages in Singapore. I'm very curious who you are and what language you can learn, and maybe perhaps along the way you can teach us some new language over there. Grateful for questions for respondent. 79% of you heard about love languages, which means that I have 2 options over here. One is that we are done for the day. Perhaps maybe at 21% we could spend a little bit of time together, and this 79% you have already heard of it. I'm not too sure how I'm going to be relevant to you, but this is where your participation is very important. If you have heard of it before, tell me, share with me along the way, how can I make this a little bit more useful for you? So put your comments, drop your question in the chat room box. And along the way, if let's say because you have heard of this before, you're able to help me out a little bit by sharing your personal experience with love languages, that's going to be very helpful because there are so many minds coming together. We're going to be able to allow one another to learn new ways of interacting with our partner. Alrighty. Thank you very much for that. And I'm going to go back to my slide over here. Okay. So, you know, I call this a love series. And just in case you're wondering what's the big deal about language that we need to even talk about it when it comes to matters of the heart. I mean, love language, what exactly is the relationship? I think it's important for us to appreciate and understand what language does for us by and large in a generic manner. Language is a way of communication. It allows us to express our needs. It can be a physical need, say a need for physical connection, physical safety, hunger. And this is where I'm going to share a little bit of information about me. Actually, I have an issue with hunger. Okay, it's hunger with the H in front. If this is a new word for you, this is where I will actually turn into a hawk when I'm fed. And hence people around me know that they have to let me eat when I say I need to eat. Otherwise, I have to say I might be a bit hard to handle, okay? It can also be our emotional need, like feeling happy, sad, anger, desire, or even a sense of rejection. So language helps us to express how we feel emotionally as well. And psychologically, language has also this amazing ability to help us to express ourselves psychologically, where we can use it to convey our sense of being worthy of love, our sense of competency, etc. So this effective use of language, if we can use it effectively, it actually allows us to enhance our understanding of one another and promotes connection between people. So this is why before we get into the rest of the topics that's to come in the weeks to come, I thought it is important for us to at least be able to communicate with one another when it comes to love. And it is also important for us to understand that language, just now when we did the poll, the languages that I put up were very largely oral languages. So actually languages comes in very varied forms as well. Languages can be signed, it can be written as well. In fact, if you think about body languages, they are very, very powerful in communicating ideas. Today, we will talk about love languages and how can we use these love languages to convey the very important message to our loved one. But before we get into love languages, there is something very important that I would like to share with you first. The love tank. I'm not too sure how many of you heard of the love tank before. I very much actually use the love tank as a metaphorical illustration to share with people to describe this emotional space between every single one of us. This is an emotional tank that desires to be filled, a need to be loved, to be cherished, to be valued, and to be appreciated. It is not, no, just in case it feels very fuzzy and in fact it feels a bit mushy. This is not just a mushy feel-good thing that I'm talking about, but in fact I would say that it is very essential to everyone's well-being. If you think about it, sometimes when we speak to people or even we ourselves, sometimes we use the language, we use the descriptor empty to describe. We say that we feel empty inside. It is not a pleasant place to be at for many. We all want to feel okay. We all want to feel good about ourselves, even when sometimes that seems a little bit difficult. But by and large, as human beings, we have a desire to connect. We still crave to be desired and loved in one way or another. Perhaps if this still seems a bit abstract to you, maybe I would like to also introduce love tank as an equivalent to the fuel tank in our car. For drivers or non-drivers actually, if we think about the fuel tank in our car, fuel can actually get refilled at petrol kiosks. Love tank unfortunately doesn't quite have a physical kiosk that we can go in and pump love in. The love tank gets pumped through the positive interactions with our significant others. So on the brighter side, I know that recently because of various circumstances, the fuel cost has actually gone down quite a bit. But the thing about love tank is probably it might go a little bit easier on your wallet. Okay, so why did I say that the love tank can be seen just like the fuel tank? See, we all understand that when we talk about cars, we don't actually run our cars on empty tank. It's also not desirable for love tank to be running low. We're still empty. When you think about it, if we run a car on empty tank without any fuel, things happen. It can explode. Yeah. So in fact, many relationships that I've seen over the years, both in personal and professional journey, are couples who did not realize that they were running on very low fuel in their tank. For some, along their journey, there were cracks in their tank that resulted in seepage that they did not realize in time to patch. And actually for others, sometimes I hear couples saying that, honestly, there wasn't any major issue in our relationships. It's just that somehow over time, somehow the feeling is gone, the love was gone. And I would say that if you think about our car once again, very much love tank looks like it as well. Even though we do not drive our cars, they evaporate. The fuel in our love tank, our fuel tank evaporate. So Maintaining a love tank is actually not a lazy, sit back and enjoy kind of event in a relationship. It takes effort and discipline to keep the love tank at a healthy level. Okay? So think about it. It is important to keep our love tank full. Okay, or at least at a healthy level. Why? There are many research over years that has actually been looking at couples, how they interact, how they, what are good relationships, what makes a relationship strong and healthy. It has actually shown that for many relationships, the sense of passion, the whole sense of, how people always say that, oh, you're still in the honeymoon phase, love is blind, in the beginning, everything is great. And that's totally normal because there is actually a very temporary euphoria that all of us, maybe at least most of us, experience when we start off a new relationship. It's almost like we finally found someone that is special, and that makes us feel very, very good. So there's this very temporary euphoria at the very beginning, and somehow this average time span of this euphoria, research has actually found that it's about 2 years. And I have to say that maybe gradually along the years, it does seems to be a little shorter. But by and large, what it says is that it's not a permanent fixture in relationship. Okay? So I would say that thereafter, this is where the challenge for real love kick in. Not to say that anything before that is not real love, but maintaining a long-term relationship actually is not just having the feel-good feeling. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of deliberate time for people to come together to make it work. So this is important. I really want all of us to see that why is it important for us to not just sit back and relax, because love takes effort and love takes fueling. I mean, I do not know about you guys, but I go to the petrol kiosk at least once every 1 to 2 weeks. So it does actually take effort for me to make sure my car is going well. So same goes for love. So how are you today? I'm not going to pull up another poll. I mean, this is a little bit private. This is a little bit personal. But if I were to ask all of you between 0 to 10, if 0 is empty and 10 is so filled with love that you think that you can't take in anymore, if you were to just take a couple of seconds to think about it, where would you say you are at from 0 to 10? Where do you think you are today? Leave that with you to think a little bit about it before I go into the next segment. Now that we talk about the love tank, I think it is important for us to say, okay, now you say that there's love tank. How do we feel love? And this is the key topic for today, the love languages. Before I go into that, I have to qualify to say that these love languages are not devised by me. They are the great work of an American author and counselor, Gary Chapman. I think a big part of you actually has heard of these love languages before, and so Gary Chapman might not be unfamiliar to you. He has a series of books on the 5 love languages, and I am extracting some of these ideas to try to adapt them to a localized version. Hopefully to share with all of you today. If you're keen to read up more, feel free to check out his books. And later on at the end of the session, Ting Ting is going to help to put up the website, brilliant website, loads and loads of resources over there. And there's something very precious that you want to check out on their website if you have not already checked out their website. Okay? All right. So I hope that nobody actually over here has tried to figure out if your partner loves you by plucking the flower petals. Yet as old school as it is, very often, I do hear people having doubts in my therapy room when they come and see me, right? Some of the more common things that I've heard are like things like, I think he loves me, but honestly, sometimes I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. I hear things like, I'm not sure if he gets what I want. Very cliche line, but how they actually even devise a credit card that says, men just don't get it. Okay. Yeah, I'm not too sure if he gets what I want. I hear people telling me nothing I do pleases her. It is always not good enough. Talking about love languages, I think it is also important to recognize that just like any languages, love languages, all of them are effective. Just like how every single language like English, Mandarin, they are all effective in communicating with another person who is fluent in that language. Okay, so for example, if let's say you're speaking to me in, I don't know, French, other than bonjour, probably if you try to express your love to me in French, thank you very much. But unfortunately, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to get it if that is a language I'm not familiar with. Okay, so the key idea today is, as you speak a language, a love language, can the other person receive the message as you have intended for it to be? So this is going to be difficult if you're not going to be speaking the love language that your partner is most familiar with. And just like the little poll we did earlier, we do have, remember question 2 and 3, I asked you, all of you, what is your primary language? And sometimes, in fact, the bulk of you actually have a secondary language. Speak outside of these 2 languages, perhaps your partner might not receive the love language that you have been sending. Okay, so hopefully that helps to express how important it is to get the language. So let's take a look at the 5 love languages. In no orders of importance, I'm just kind of like introducing them in alphabetical order. The first one we're going to introduce all of you this evening is the acts of service. This is a language where people value the practical assistance that others can provide. This should not be confused with doing things out of obligations, although it is easy to see them as such. Acts of service are usually done out of the desire to share, to elevate, show concerns for the other party, and not so much of because they have to. Let me give you an example. Say for example, since just now I was using fuel tank, let's talk about cars again. So say for example, your partner tops up your cash card after noting that it was running low. That I will consider as an act of service, unless, I'm not going to assume that your partner is not assigned the duty of topping up your cash card. But when your partner realized that your cash card was running low and top it up, just so that next time you get into ERP, you do not get a fine, that could be seen as an act of service. That's a way to show concern for you, a way to alleviate some of your anxiety. Say for example, especially during this period where a lot of us are working from home, you're busy rushing your reports. And the next time around you took a break. You kind of want to just check in to see what your partner is doing. You realize that all the laundry have been done and dinner is ready. I wonder, how do you feel about it? Would you say that, yeah, that's what he or she has to do anyway? Or would you actually feel that it's actually nice that as you're busy rushing your report, the laundry has been done, the dinner is ready, you don't have to worry about all these things? Sometimes I would say that, especially if we are staying together for too long, if we stay together, or even if we don't stay together, it is sometimes very easy to overlook all this gesture and see them as part of the agreement of being in a relationship. That's what you have to do as husband, that's what you have to do as girlfriend, that's what you have to do as a father, as a mother. And even if they are, I would have to say that even if they are, it is always important to be able to not take these things for granted and to be able to recognize them. Yeah, because all of us like to know that every time we do something nice, someone sees it and someone likes it. Okay. And tell you what, just to give you a little bit of tip, I think as much as you think that it could be your partner's responsibility, one of the reasons that I do see couples in my room is also they don't do it. They don't do it, even though it's their responsibility. So when they do it, do we want to encourage them and really affirm them when they actually take up this responsibility? Yeah? Okay. Second love language that I'd like to introduce is give. Right. I hear that a lot when I introduce love language. And before someone in the room jumps and declare that you are not a materialistic person. Let's look at give, the second love language, in a broader sense. It's not about the cost of the gift. It is the symbolic meaning that conveys the message that the sender is thinking of you at the point of gifting. If we are considering, if we think a little bit, it's not about, okay, I know there's this controversial about the LV bag recently, the LV purse. It's really not about how expensive your gift is. If you think about the role of gift in our society, for the longest time, gift has been used to convey love and concern. In birthdays, Christmas, or even when we were really, really young children, when we were in kindergarten, remember how our teachers would have us create Mother's Day cards and Father's Day cards? Yeah, very young, we were taught to give gifts to people that we love. And one of the very symbolic meaning for people who have people who are married, you realize that even when we exchange our vows, a very significant process of this exchange of wedding vows was when we exchange rings, which is also a form of gift that we give to our partner to say that this is our commitment to you that we're going to spend for the rest of our life. Gifts actually, in fact, don't have to be bought. And sometimes the most precious gifts are those which are handmade. Sometimes people do prefer that over purchased items. It can be even a photo of yourself that you send through WhatsApp in the course of a busy day. If you're wondering, are you a gift person? Think a little bit about, are you someone who have been keeping all the notes and letters that you have exchanged with your friends and your loved ones, even though many years have passed? Perhaps, if you are, perhaps that's actually a way of keeping a token of the love that you have felt at a moment in your life. You wanted to remember that moment. Perhaps a little bit of a personal story at this moment, yeah? You see the coffee in the picture that I'm putting up here? This coffee is actually very important to me because this coffee was actually given to me by my partner. And I took a picture of it because I wanted to remember how I felt when I received a very thoughtful gift. It might have started off as an act of service for my partner when preparing breakfast. That's kind of a routine act of service kind of thing. But when I received it, it was powerful because you're that moment where you know that someone passed you this gift because someone was thinking of you at one point in time. And above all, I think there is a very precious gift that all of us will be able to give to our partner that's completely free. Brilliant idea, right? It's completely free. You don't even have to pay for a pen or paper to write a note. And that is the gift of self, yourself. How someone is making it a point to be constantly present, especially during times of crisis. And I'm definitely from the era. I mean, I'm not going to reveal my age, but I remember watching this show from a local production. Some of you might be familiar. Mandarin production, I'm Not Stupid Too. There's this little scene that I remember. It's not a couple relationship, but see, love language is powerful because it cuts across different type of relationship. There was this boy in the show who resorted to stealing money because he wanted enough to buy his father's time. His father was so busy working that his father said that an hour he can earn $500. So actually this boy actually was stealing money. He realized he couldn't save enough to buy his father's time. That's why he resorted to stealing. And even though this was a fictional drama production, it does represent how the gift of presence is so important to some of us. Okay?